Welcome to Euro Bangla City SATV News. This is Shibala Alam with our headlines. Prime Minister reiterated her call to the countrymen to follow the health guidelines properly. Academic councils and syndicates to decide reopening of public universities. Government asks students to register by vaccine by September 27. All ports are asked to continue hoisting warning signal 3 as depression over Bay of Bengal intensifies. Prime Minister and the leader of the House, Sheikh Hasina, reiterated her call to their countrymen, particularly the lawmakers, to follow the health guidelines properly as she joined a discussion on an arbitrary motion at the Parliament. The 11th Jatiya সংসদ, on the first day of its 14th session, after a 9-day break on Tuesday, unanimously adopted arbitrary references on noted Jatiya Party lawmaker Professor Masuda M. Rashid Chaudhary of Women Reserve Seat 345, who died early Monday at the age of 70. Taking part in the discussion of the arbitrary references and the death of the Jatiya Party lawmaker from the reserved seat for women, Professor Masuda M. Rashid Chaudhary, the Premier said all, including the people who received vaccines, will have to follow the health guidelines properly, particularly during the period of coronavirus pandemic. Sheikh Hasina said Masuda M. Rashid Chaudhary could have contributed more to the society if she had been alive. Her death is the greatest loss to the society. The Prime Minister prayed for the eternal peace of the departed soul and conveyed deep sympathy to the bereaved family and also wished good health and everyone staying at home and abroad. A 1-minute silence was observed at the Parliament to show respect to the deceased lawmaker. Enamul Haq MP conducted a munajat seeking eternal peace of the departed soul. Students of all public and private universities will need to complete registration for getting COVID-19 vaccine by September 27. University students who do not have national identity cards will be able to register using birth registration card, said top officials of University Grant Commission today. This decision was taken at a meeting today among Education Ministry UGC, Vice Chancellor of Public Universities and top health officials. Education Minister Dipul Moni presided over the online meeting. If any university considers that all their students have completed registration, they can reopen any time based on approval of the Academic Council and Syndicate, said UGC member Professor Muhammad Alamgir. The decision was taken as COVID-19 infection rate has come down significantly. The maritime ports of Chittagong, Cox's Bazar, Mongla and Paira have been directed to keep local cautionary signal number 3 hosted as the steep pressure gradient persists over the North Bay and adjoining areas under the influence of a deep depression. The deep depression over Odisha and adjoining areas has moved further northwestwards and now lies over Odisha, Jharkhand adjoining areas. It is likely to move in a northwesterly direction further and weaken gradually, the Met Office said in its forecast on Tuesday. Bangladesh is now out of danger as the deep depression has moved to India. However, there may be storms in coastal areas which can result in moderate to heavy rainfall in the southern part of Bangladesh, officials said. Squally weather may affect the maritime ports, the North Bay and the adjoining coastal areas of Bangladesh, the Bangladesh Meteorological Department said, advising all fishing boats and trawlers in the North Bay and deep sea to remain in shelter until further notice. Demanding RT-PCR lab at Hazrat Shahjalal International Airport, a section of Bangladeshis working in United Arab Emirates who are stranded here started fast unto death in front of the Ministry of Expatriate Welfare and Overseas Employment in Dhaka this morning. Demonstrators said that they want a specific deadline in setting up the RT-PCR lab at the airport to facilitate COVID-19 test that is mandatory within 6 hours before boarding to the plane. In the morning, they also went to the Director General of Health Services headquarters in Mohakali and submitted a memorandum. On August 4th, the UAE government imposed a condition for migrant workers from different countries including Bangladesh, and they must carry COVID-19 negative certificate based on RT-PCR test within 6 hours before boarding in the plane. In response, countries like India and Pakistan have already set up RT-PCR lab at their airports according to the demonstration. However, no RT-PCR lab at Dhaka airport. Around 50,000 expats working in UAE have been not able to go back to their work. Earlier on September 6, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina directed to set up an RT-PCR lab at the airport in response to the expat previous demonstration. A Dhaka court on Tuesday fixed October 5th for delivering the verdict of the graft case filed against former Chief Justice Surendra Kumar Sinha and 10 others over laundering Dhaka 40 million. Judge Sheikh Nazmul Alam of Special Judges Court 4 of Dhaka set the date on completion of closing arguments in the case of the accused former MD of Farmers Bank AKM Shamim and other senior officers, the bank Shapun Kumar Roy, Mohammad Lutful Haq, Ghazi Salahuddin and businessman Mohammad Shah Jahan and Niranjan Chandra Shaha are now out of bail. M. Mahabul Haq Chishti, former chairman of Audit Committee of the Farmers Bank, is behind bars. Shafiuddin Askari Ahmed, first Vice President of Farmers Bank, former Chief Justice Surendra Kumar Sinha, his wife Shastri Roy and Ranjit Chandra Shaha are absconding. State Minister for Public Administration on Farhad Hussain today said that the government has no plan to raise the age limit for entering government services right now. The State Minister was responding to a question from BNP lawmaker Mosharraf Hussain at the Parliament today. Although there was significant session jam at educational institutions, including universities, in the past, there is no considerable session jam now, the State Minister said. Students generally sit for SSC at the age of 16 and HSC at 18 and they graduate at 23 to 24. Job seekers get 6 to 7 years to apply for government jobs after graduation at the age limit for entering civil services at 30 years as present. He added job seekers in the country have long been demanding raising the age limit for entering government jobs for 35 years. Viewers are taking a short break. Stay with Euro Bangla City SATV News. Welcome back. You're watching Euro Bangla City SATV News. Now international news. Let's look at what is going on in the world now. We start things off in Afghanistan. The international community has pledged to donate over $1 billion to Afghanistan as it faces a major humanitarian crisis after the Taliban took over the country last month. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made the plea for global support at a conference held Monday in Geneva to the various governments and aid organizations in attendance. The US has vowed $64 million in new humanitarian assistance, while Germany has also said it would ramp up funding for the country. The major beneficiary of the funds, which said the UN would bring vital relief to millions of people, will be the UN's World Food Programme. The UN also expressed deep concern about Afghanistan refugee issue, urging countries to embrace them going forward. Meanwhile, the UN Human Rights Chief warned of a new and perilous phase for Afghanistan, pointing out that there is a major disconnection between the Taliban's word and action. In Egypt, where Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett met Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Monday for talks on relations between the two countries, marking the first official trip by an Israeli head of government to Egypt in a decade. Ahead of the return to Israel, Prime Minister Bennett spoke to reporters at the airport, noting the importance of dialogue between the two sides. According to a statement from the President's office, President al-Sisi cited Egypt's effort to maintain calm in Palestinian territories and the importance of international support for rebuilding efforts in the region. It added that al-Sisi affirmed his government's support for all efforts to achieve comprehensive peace in the Middle East. The state visit comes as Bennett, who took office in June, was visited by al-Sisi last month. However, Egypt became the first Arab country to sign a peace treaty with Israel in 1979. Meanwhile, top scientists at the World Health Organization and two departing scientists from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration wrote in an article in the Lancet Medical Journal that booster shots are not needed for the general population. The journal said that 6 months after getting 2 shots of the vaccine, the chance of hospitalization has only risen slightly for those over 75 years old, and that for now immunity levels after 6 months didn't show much difference. However, this goes directly against some of the decisions by countries around the world, including the US, where booster shots will be rolled out in a few days. The authors of the journal added that booster shots coming too soon or too frequently could even be dangerous to recipients, and that using the supply to administer first shot to unvaccinated people would save more lives. Before ending, we go to the Bangla City SATV news again. Prime Minister reiterated her call to the countrymen to follow the health guidelines properly. Academic councils and syndicates to decide reopening of public universities. Government asked students to register for vaccine by September 27. All ports are asked to continue hoisting warning signal 3 as depression over Bay of Bengal intensifies. We're up to date so far here on Bangla City SATV News, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with SATV.